Welcome back, folks, to another edition of WrestleRant, where I review pay-per-views from the WWE Network for your viewing pleasure. With Extreme Rules quickly approaching, I thought it'd only be appropriate to start reviewing Extreme Rules pay-per-views from 2009 to 2013, respectively, and each and every single one. I'm not going to watch every one, of course. I watched 2013, 2012, 2011, pretty much all of them as a fan, but I did not watch 2009, 2010 live. I watched 2011, 2012, 2013. I never watched 09 or 2010 in their entirety. So I'll probably be reviewing Extreme Rules at some point. But we don't have much time before Extreme Rules. But even after that, I'll probably continue to watch them or review them or whatever. But this video, however, will be focusing on the Backlash pay-per-view from 2009. Wasn't Extreme Rules, of course, but it was the final Backlash pay-per-view ever in WWE history. It aired in the month of April. Actually, as I film this on Saturday, April 26th, this video is probably going to be going up on the Monday, but as I film this, it was 5 years ago to the day that Backlash happened. Probably one of the best pay-per-views in 2009 for WWE. There weren't that many of them, in my opinion. There were a handful of good shows that year. It wasn't a great year for WWE overall, but around this time, it really was exciting to be a wrestling fan. I, of course, was a fan at the time because, as I've said in past videos, I started watching in April 2008, so the year prior. But I did not watch this pay-per-view. I never watched this pay-per-view. I was not watching live, and I didn't watch the pay-per-views at the time. I never went back and watched it because there was no way of doing so without the DVD or whatever, and I didn't want to watch it online somewhere. So I watched it on the WWE Network just recently, thought it was fantastic. I knew it was, I heard great things about it based off the card and whatnot, knew it was a great show, finally had the chance to watch it, and I'm going to be reviewing it right now here for you. So kicking off the show, we had the ECW Championship matchup, Christian versus Jack Swagger. Now, Christian, these two faced off for the ECW Championship, I believe in February or March of 2009, so a couple months prior. It was Christian's second or third match back. He defeated Swagger in his first match back when he came back to the WWE, the very same night that he came back. Faced off against Swagger for the title. Swagger won clean, I think it was. So that ended that, but Christian went on this elimination chase right after WrestleMania ended, winning a fatal four-way triple threat in a match against Finlay on the debut edition of WWE Superstars to become the #1 contender to the ECW Championship. Jack Swagger, you look at him now, he's not the greatest superstar in the world. He's a very good wrestler, but he's just been not booked correctly for the last 5 years. But with that being said, though, he's a former world heavyweight champion. But at this point in time, he was a priceless prodigy over on the ECW brand as the ECW champion. Had successful title defenses against Matt Hardy, Christian, as I said before, Finlay at the No Way Out pay-per-view in that very same year. But even still, that was a very good reign for Swagger as ECW champion in this matchup facing off against Christian. So their second encounter, first encounter on pay-per-view, second encounter overall. I think it was their third encounter. But even still, delivering a very good matchup, the perfect matchup to kick off the pay-per-view. Christian, both Swagger and Christian putting forth a strong effort in this matchup. Great opener. The crowd was very much into it. Christian, at one point in the matchup, or at the end of the matchup, exposed the turnbuckle while the referee was fixing the other turnbuckle that Swagger attempted to expose. Christian outsmarted Swagger, picked up the victory, so technically he cheated, but it was smart, and I mean, despite the fact being a babyface and all, but it was smart on his part to keep the feud alive, keep them in the same chase for the ECW Championship, so it was very smart on his part to keep that going, and Christian was crowned the new ECW champion at this point in time. So this is his first championship win in WWE, because of course he won gold over on TNA, his first title in WWE in nearly 5 years. So it was an awesome moment. The crowd was excited for it. One of my personal favorite moments as a wrestling fan. But Christian, your new ECW champion, a great opener to the show. Up next, we had Chris Jericho versus Ricky Steamboat. Now, this stemmed off from the WrestleMania build from WrestleMania 25, when Jericho was disrespecting all these legends, faced off against Steamboat. Who else? Roddy Piper at WrestleMania, and Jimmy Superfly Snuka beat them all in a 3-on-1 handicap match and delivered a code breaker to Ric Flair afterwards, and then got knocked out by Mickey Rourke, and that's all that people really remember about this matchup. But even still, though, Ricky Steamboat stuck around afterwards. I don't know if that was the original plan or if they just saw he had such a great outing at WrestleMania and the next night on Raw in that all-star 10-man tag team match that they decided to keep him around for a little while longer and resume the feud between him and Jericho. So there really wasn't much of a feud going into this matchup, because I know Steamboat maybe appeared once before the Backlash pay-per-view and the Go Home Raw, but aside from that, this really wasn't a planned matchup, I don't think. But even still, though, it was a great matchup. Ricky Steamboat shined in that 3-on-1 handicap matchup at WrestleMania. So now that he was on his own, he put even a better effort forward against Jericho in this matchup. I think this was his last WWE match to my memory that is aired on television. Of course, he works down in FCW, so I don't think he wrestled down there. But it was interesting, though, because Jericho, or the commentators during the matchup, were saying that Jericho, if he were to beat Steamboat here, he could brag about possibly ending the career of Ricky Steamboat if this was to turn out to be his last matchup. And I think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Ricky Steamboat has wrestled the match in WWE since 5 years ago at Backlash in 2009. I know he was supposed to face the Nexus at 2010 SummerSlam, teaming with WWE, but he had some kind of health scare, so Bret Hart replaced him instead. But even still, though, very, very good matchup from these two. A lot of people look back on this matchup very fondly. They told a very nice story. Jericho going over clean. I don't even know if it was with the walls of Jericho. It looked like he was doing the, the Lion Tamer. I can't remember exactly, but even still, though, a very impressive maneuver. A great match from these two. Steamboat, great worker, as is Jericho. They gelled perfectly in an amazing matchup, so I really enjoyed this matchup. And Jericho went over clean to set him up for his move over to SmackDown and subsequent feud for the Intercontinental Championship with Rey Mysterio. So 2 great matches in a row. Up next, we had Kane versus CM Punk. Now, this was a match of all the matches on the card for the most part that didn't really have much of a story behind it. At the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, CM Punk knocked Kane off the top of the ladder to claim the Money in the Bank briefcase and became the new Mr. Money in the Bank. And then on the go-home Raw before the Backlash pay-per-view, CM Punk defeated Kane in singles action. Kane defeated CM Punk in tag team action on that week's edition of WWE Superstars. But even still, so I guess that really set up a rematch. I'm not really sure how this match really came about. They weren't really feuding or at all. I think WWE just wanted to fill a match on the show, just wanted to get CM Punk on the show, since he's Mr. Money in the Bank and all. But even still, though, it was a good matchup, a lot better than I thought it was. I mean, Kane and Punk have always worked well together. Of course, it's not a huge shocker. Kane and Punk are both excellent workers. They work together well here. They always have. But I don't know, I just never thought this match was anything really all that memorable. And they delivered a very, very good match here, so I really, really enjoyed it. Kane going over clean with the double hand chokeslam, not his regular chokeslam. He picked CM Punk up with both of his hands and then slammed him down for the chokeslam and the clean victory. So I thought that was cool. I remember thinking at the time that Kane winning this matchup, because initially I thought it was over the Money in the Bank briefcase, and it wasn't. But I thought because Kane won this non-contract matchup, that it would earn him a shot at winning back the Money in the Bank briefcase. But it didn't, so then the feud just kind of ended after that. Even though, despite the fact that both of these guys were over on the SmackDown brand, Kane just kind of disappeared from programming. I think he competed in one match on SmackDown the following week, and that was it, and he was gone for like a month or two. But so I don't really know what the point of that was, especially since Punk lost his next match of the pay-per-view too against Umaga. But I guess WWE wanted to set him up as the next big thing. You know, like the Mr. Money in the Banks have always been booked like shit, and have always lost all their matches, and then they win the championship. It's always been booked that way for the most part. So I guess that's what they were going with here. But even still, very good matchup with Kane and Punk, even though it didn't really mean all that much. Enjoyable action nonetheless. Up next, we had Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy in an I Quit match. Now, this goes back far beyond WrestleMania. I know on the road to WrestleMania, I think initially it was supposed to be Christian versus Jeff Hardy. That was a original feud for WrestleMania, but it got leaked or something like that, and WWE switched plans. I'm not exactly sure. And I know Matt Hardy was not a huge fan of this feud. I know he loved working with his brother, but the only it's funny I say that because I'm wearing a Matt Hardy shirt as we speak, Stronger Than Death. But I know Matt Hardy has gone on the record and said he did not enjoy this feud, if only because it was supposed to be on him that he burned his brother's house down, all this stupid shit. So that was really weird. But they made the most of it. They had good promos, even though neither guy is all that fantastic on the mic. They made the most of it. It was a very personal feud. They had a great Extreme Rules match at WrestleMania and a stretcher match on the subsequent edition of SmackDown. Another great matchup you should go back and watch. So this is the third and final chance for Jeff Hardy to get one over on his brother. In the promo that led into this matchup with the theme song, of course, Seasons by Vera Union, an amazing song. Downloaded it right after that pay-per-view and still listen to it to this day because it's a great song. But they did the video package for this feud to that song. Great stuff. So the matchup itself, it was slow at points. The thing with I Quit matches, and it's basically the same thing as a submission match, which we don't see at all nowadays, But the only difference is that you're saying I quit instead of tapping out. So it's a little different. It's a little more emotional, I guess, because you actually have to utter the words. And at one point in the matchup, Jeff Hardy forced Matt Hardy to submit, but Matt Hardy didn't want to quit. So that was a little weird. But the only real difference is that the referee is being told to ask the wrestler whenever he's in harm. He has to stick out the microphone, put it to the superstar's mouth, and ask him if he wants to quit. So that can get annoying after a while. I know that got a little annoying with Del Rio versus Swagger last year at Extreme Rules. But aside from that, though, it was a very, very good matchup. The final few minutes were a bit slow. It was a little weird because Jeff Hardy dominated almost all of it. And you would think that maybe Matt Hardy was going to bounce back and pick up the victory. No one really knew. But Hardy, for the final few minutes, dominated Matt. He hit the Twist of Fate. He hit the Swanton. And Matt Hardy refused to quit. So I guess that made him look strong here because he refused to quit after all of that. So it made him look like a good heel. And by the way, for the record, I loved Matt Hardy as a heel. That's actually when I first became a fan of Matt Hardy, when he first turned heel at the start of 2009. I really enjoyed this feud. And then they turned him back babyface later on in the year because all these injuries. And he was actually injured in this matchup because when Jeff Hardy went up to the top and he was about to do the swanton off the top of the turnbuckle or off the ladder or something to Matt Hardy, who was tied up on the table with rope and duct tape and all this other stuff, which is funny because duct tape was used in the Cena versus Batista match a year later at Extreme Rules, but I digress. But as Jeff Hardy was about to do the swanton and do it on top of Matt Hardy, that part was dragged on a little bit with Matt Hardy just whining to Jeff, saying that he just apologizing and saying that he's sorry and all this other BS. That dragged on a little long, and I know the fans really wanted to see him do the swanton, but having him do the senton splash through the table instead was a nice consolation prize. And I think when Matt Hardy, because when he was tied up, his hands were fine, but he stuck out his hands when he was apologizing to Jeff. He stuck his hands like this in like prayer position, to plead to Jeff Hardy, and he kept them like that when Jeff Hardy jumped through the table, off the ladder and through the table. So I guess he broke his wrist or something, or injured it, or fractured it, or something like that. So he was out with an injury. I don't think he was out with an injury. He was just injured for like a couple weeks after that. So I don't know how wise that was. But it was a cool finish. The fans were happy to see Jeff Hardy go over, obviously. One of the biggest babyfaces in WWE in 08 and 09, respectively. But, of course, a very good match from these two. These two always work well together. They're brothers, so they know each other. They know each other inside and out. So a great match from these two. Jeff Hardy went over. They were happy to see him do the spot with him going through the table. So a very good matchup from these guys. So a great show up to this point. And they had some time to kill, so they brought out Santina Marella. And for those that forgot about this, I apologize for bringing it back into your memory. But Santina Marella won the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25 after eliminating Santino's boyfriend, or girlfriend, in storyline Beth Phoenix. And that triggered a whole feud. The whole Santina thing was asinine and one of the stupidest things they could have done. A really stupid storyline. But I will admit this, though. At various points during the segment, Santina did make me laugh. I thought that was pretty funny. You got to admire how dedicated Santino is to this shit. I mean, he's a great wrestler. A lot of people don't realize that. He's a great wrestler, just saddled with a shitty gimmick of being a comedy figure. And at this time, he was kind of transitioning into the role of being a fan favorite. So after this, he kind of turned into a face because he had been a heel for most of his career before this. But even still, though, I laughed at various points in this segment. I didn't think it was all that bad. It was a waste of time. But I thought it was comical at points. Santina was pretty funny at some points. Kali came out, and then Beth Phoenix came out. Kali was being insulted by Phoenix, so he chopped her over the head or hit her over the head with his fist or something like that. And they did a match in the Miss WrestleMania title, and Santina won in 3 seconds. So the real talking point here, and I saw this when I was writing down the results, because I wanted to go back and check the results and make sure I wanted to include everything in this review. So one thing I wanted to talk about here, is this the shortest match in WWE history? I'm not exactly sure, because I know a lot of people, I know there was a discussion, I Googled it, and the latest discussion about this was some thread on some website, and everyone was saying The Rock versus Big Boss Man. And of course everyone's going to say that it was on pay-per-view, it's fresh in people's minds, and that matchup was 4 seconds long. And I know people are going to say the shortest WrestleMania match was Kane versus Chavo, Backlund versus Nash, that 8-second match. I'm not talking about shortest title match ever, shortest WrestleMania match ever. I'm talking about shortest WWE match ever. And I know there's probably been shorter matches elsewhere in other companies, but I'm talking about in the WWE. In this matchup, after looking at the results on Wiki and just basically by counting, because I noticed it when I was watching this match too, or match, or what was technically a matchup, I guess, whatever you want to call it. It was 3 seconds long. The Big Boss Man versus Rock match was 4 seconds. And I don't know if there's been a match that was 3 seconds long, because literally the bell rang, he did the 3 count quickly, and he rang the bell. So it was, I think, 3 seconds long. It might have been 4, I don't know. If it was 4, then it ties Rock versus Boss Man. So I'm not exactly sure, but if someone can find that out for me, I really appreciate it. Make sure to leave it down in the comments below. But as far as I know, I think this might be the shortest match in WWE history. I don't know exactly for sure, but it looks like it. But from there, though, and by the way, and that served its purpose as being a filler match by killing some time. They bothered JR a bit by saying that Santina had a crush on JR. I doubt JR knew about that in advance, because they always like to pick on JR for all this bullshit. I don't know. I think JR said something about it in his blog a short time afterwards. I'm not exactly sure if he was really in on it. I don't think he was. But even still, it was a stupid yet harmless segment for the most part. I thought it was funny at some certain points. It was a waste of time, but they needed to kill time before the next 2 matches, which went really long. So it served its purpose in that sense. So up next, we had the Legacy, Randy Orton, Ted DiBiase, and Cody Rhodes, taking on the trio of the then WWE Champion Triple H, Batista, and Shane McMahon. Now, in this matchup, it was a 6-man tag team matchup. If Triple H's team was to lose, if anyone on the team was to be pinned or submitted, Randy Orton would become the WWE Champion. Or even if Triple H's team lost by countout or disqualification or whatever, he would still lose the championship, because at the time he was hitting people with sledgehammers and doing all that crap. So he didn't want to get carried away. So kind of like Punk versus Jericho from WrestleMania 28 kind of thing. So that kind of thing. So the matchup itself was very, very good. A very solid 6-man tag team match. At some points, I was a bit bored, to be quite honest with you. Maybe that was because I was running off 5 hours of sleep the night before I watched this. But overall, though, it was a very, very solid matchup. That's not to insult it at all. It was a great matchup. Everyone played their role well. They built towards the hot tags very nicely by building towards the hot tags to Triple H at the end. I think this matchup got like 20, 25 minutes, something like that. It was a very good matchup. Everyone was able to get in at some point. At the start of the matchup, something that I did not know, Randy Orton escaped the ring, and he didn't even start off in the matchup. It started off as a handicap. Triple H, Batista, and Shane versus Legacy versus DiBiase and Rhodes. I didn't know about that beforehand, and Randy Orton eventually ran in and joined the fray. But even still, though, a very, very solid 6-man tag team matchup. The best part came at the end when all hell broke loose. Everyone was hitting their finishers, all that kind of stuff. And Batista on the outside, or Cody Rhodes took out a chair and hit Batista with it, was going to hit him again with it, but Batista took the chair from him and was going to hit him with the chair. So he had it up in the air, was about to hit Cody with it. And like I said before, if Batista got his team disqualified, Triple H would have lost the title. So all of this is going on. Triple H and Orton are the legal man in the ring. He's about to hit the pedigree on Triple H. Triple H is about to hit the pedigree on Randy Orton. And he sees Batista about to hit Cody, so he runs over to the side of the ring, takes a chair out of his hands. Batista gets attacked at ringside, gets thrown into the ring post or something. And then by the time Triple H turns around, he gets hit with the RKO by Randy Orton. The crowd went crazy for it. It was an awesome moment. You'd think that was it right there. And here came a weird moment. Because I had never seen, like I said, I never saw this pay-per-view before in its entirety. I know what happened, of course, but I've never actually watched the pay-per-view. And I knew that he hit the punt on Triple H. But here's the weird thing, though, and I think the match should have just ended right there, but maybe they wanted to make Triple H look strong. But he hits the RKO, gets the, almost, assumingly the 1-2-3, because he gets a 2 count, and the ref, I think, thinks it was he thought it was a 3 count, so he rang the bell. The bell was rang. So people thought the match was over, and then they booed when they knew it wasn't. It was a really weird situation. It didn't really matter, though, because mere moments later, Randy Orton set up the punt kick, hit it, and it was over. So with the punt kick, Randy Orton became the new WWE Champion. The live crowd was very happy about that, which is very, very cool. So I guess Randy Orton at this point in time, as a heel, as a psycho heel, people loved him. And he was a great heel, and I loved him as a psycho heel as well. So that's why they kind of had to transition him into a babyface role the very next year, because he was getting reactions off the charts. And not like booing in a way either. And people were still booing when he won and when he came out and whatever. But he was getting babyface-like reactions for a very long time as a psycho heel because he was doing such a great job of it. But yeah, Randy Orton wins the WWE Championship here. Triple H got written off TV for about a month or so with the punt kick to the head. He was gone for a while. Then Batista was set up as a new challenger for the title afterwards. But they took out Triple H on a stretcher. That took a little long too. That kind of dragged a little bit, but even still, though, people didn't like Batista, which I thought was interesting. And I know Batista's been booed before, even as late as '05. In late '05, even after he turned babyface earlier on in that year, people were booing him. So he was kind of like the John Cena of the SmackDown brand, in which people weren't really endearing towards his face character. And even after his return the night after WrestleMania 25, people really weren't all that they weren't liking the Batista character as a fan favorite, and they wanted him to turn heel, I guess. And that's probably what people were thinking here, that Batista was going to turn on his team, and he didn't. And he wouldn't turn heel until later on in the year. And one matchup I think that we should have gotten out of this feud, and we got 3 out of the 4 Evolution members in this matchup, and even Ric Flair returned the very next month at Judgment Day when Batista was feuding with Orton one-on-one. So one matchup I think we should have gotten out of this entire feud, and I think it would have been worth it, if it was Batista versus Triple H versus Orton for the championship. That would have been a sexy-ass matchup. And the funny thing is that we almost got to this year at WrestleMania for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I didn't want to see it then, because it was a completely different situation, and Batista wasn't a face, Triple H wasn't a face, no one was a face in that matchup. It would have been weird. But they should have done that matchup back in '09. I think that could have been great. And the only thing that really prevented it from happening, I think, was the fact that Batista and Triple H were just out with injuries almost all the time in 2009. So it was kind of hard to do for the most part. And they were never really around at the same time. There were very small windows of time that Triple H and Batista were both on the Raw roster at the same time. So they were never able to do that matchup. Even still, though, a great matchup for the 6-man tag team matchup. Randy Orton, your new WWE champion. The main event came... It was the last man standing match between John Cena and Edge for the WWE, or just for the World Heavyweight Championship. I can't say the WWE World Heavyweight Championship because that'd be confusing with today's title. But anyway, this came after the triple threat match at WrestleMania for the world title, also involving the Big Show. And the claim here was that Edge was never pinned. He was never pinned in that matchup to lose his championship. So he had a gripe with Cena about this. And leading up to this pay-per-view, and the promo before this that aired before this matchup was fantastic, because it showed how much Edge hated John Cena, saying how much he hated his character, his look, what he stood for, everything. I thought it was great. Edge was phenomenal as a heel, especially as a psycho heel. The Master Manipulator, the Ultimate Opportunist were all great gimmicks, but this was fantastic. When he was psycho, when he was determined, it was awesome. And especially in the Raw before the show, I remember this fondly, when he hit Cena with the 10 count, he knocked him out with the concerto, and he got him down for the 10 count. So Booking 101 says that Cena goes over here. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I guess a lot of people were expecting John Cena to go over here. And he was on Raw at the time. Triple H was on Raw at the time, too. And the WWE title was staying on Raw regardless. And Edge was a SmackDown guy. Cena was a Raw guy. So I guess people maybe thought Edge had to win because he was a SmackDown guy and the title had to go back to SmackDown. I don't really know. Or maybe people thought Punk was going to cash in. Because after Edge entered into this matchup and before Cena entered, people were chanting for CM Punk. So maybe they thought there was going to be a cash in. I don't really know. And Punk was going to cash in on Edge for the second straight year, which probably would have been pretty cool, but the way he ended up doing was awesome anyway. But that's another story for another day. But anyway, this matchup between Edge and Cena, of course, they've always worked great. Go back and watch their matches from '06. They had a phenomenal feud that year, had a great feud this year. Kind of a rehash, and not really the same thing, but it was still a very, very good feud. Edge was great here. Cena was great here. They put on a phenomenal matchup. And last man standing matches are weird because they can get a bit boring at times because you got to wait for the 10 count. They can be anticlimactic. Not the best stipulation out there. It's great for resolving rivalries and whatnot, but it's not the most exciting stipulation that you could do for a matchup to end a feud. And that kind of proved to be the case here because sometimes it was a little weird. Like Cena would hit his finisher on Edge, he would hit the STF, and you have to do the 10 count, then get back up. You do the attitude adjustment off the top rope, you get back up at 8 or 9. Edge, you do the spear, get back up at 8 or 9. Do the concerto, get back up at 8 or 9. So it got a bit boring at some points. It was a bit slow. It was like a 20, 25-minute matchup, just like the 6-man tag team matchup. So it was, of course, going to have its slow moments, and I understand that. But a last man standing matchup, for what it was, they made the most of it, and definitely one of the better matches of the PG era. I think a very underrated matchup, in my opinion, and one of the best matches of '09. And, of course, it's going to be blown out of the water by HBK and Taker, but, of course, it was a great matchup that I don't think gets the recognition it deserves. It was a very, very good matchup. Edge and Cena both tried their hardest. I think the best part about this matchup, and during this matchup, they went through the... did they go through the table at ringside? No, Cena, what he did was he did an AA to Edge into the crowd, which was awesome, by the way. And one kid that he hit at ringside was down even after Edge got back up. He was still down, so that must have been a plant or something. I don't imagine Cena would do a move to Edge on top of the fans at fucking ringside if he knew that it wasn't going to hurt them. So if it was going to hurt them, I don't think he would have done it. So there must have been plans or something. Because if that guy was selling that, he did a beast job of selling that injury because he was down for far longer than Edge was when Edge landed on top of him after the AA. But I think the best part about this matchup, and I think they should have done more of this, was when Edge went through the crowd. And this is what last man standing matches are all about. They went through the crowd and started brawling through the crowd up towards the stage area and the backstage and the hallways of the arena and whatever. That's the best part about last man standing matches for me. So I thought that was awesome. They went over the stage area. They were doing some moves over there, going down the stairs. So he did a running bulldog down the stairs and off to the side. I thought that was great. That was a great maneuver. So that part of the matchup should have gone on a little bit more longer than it did. Because they always like when they go out of the ring and whatever. But even still, the finish came when John Cena, or Edge hit a spear on Cena. And I think Cena got back up. And then he did the concerto, got back up again, and was going to go for a spear or whatever else. And then John Cena was going to go for the AA. So out comes Big Show, the person who was also involved in the world title match with these two at WrestleMania. Grabs Cena, picks him up in the air, throws him into the light at ringside. It's fucking awesome. One of the best visuals I've ever seen. It exploded. I don't even know how they pulled this off. Because it exploded. Cena, you can obviously shards of glass all over his body, just laying in the fucking light. I thought it was great. There was a fire going on behind the light. They had to put that out. So I don't know how he didn't get legitimately hurt from this because it looked beast. And I don't know how they pulled off the explosion. I still don't know that to this day, but it looked fucking awesome. It was a great visual. And Edge went over, the new World Heavyweight Champion. So 3 new champions crowned in the show. So Edge continued that streak here. But Edge went over, kind of fulfilled his ultimate opportunist persona. Big Show and Cena went on to feud from here. Whether that feud was really necessary is a whole other story. But that being said, though, I really liked how they pulled off the Edge victory here. Started not a new feud, but they resumed the feud between Cena and Big Show by having him get involved in this matchup. I don't really know. I know I personally wasn't expecting Big Show to interfere. Maybe some people did. But even if people that knew that Big Show was going to interfere, I don't think anyone thought it was going to go down like this. It went down fantastic. It was a great finish to a great matchup. And like I said before, one of the better matches of the PG era. Definitely in my top 25 best matches of the last 5 years. So overall, though, I thought this was a great show. Oh, no, even before I get to the overall thing, give my thoughts on the overall show. When Cena was on the stretcher and when they were stretching him out, they showed the replay of Cena going through the light, which is great. And they didn't drag out his stretcher job. They only showed maybe a few minutes of it before they cut out and ended the broadcast, which I thought was good. I don't think they need to go on with that any longer than they did. But that being said, though, I thought it was great. And Edge was your new World Heavyweight Champion. So, like I said before, overall show, I thought it was great. One of the best pay-per-views of 2009. Very underrated pay-per-view, in my opinion. We got a new World Heavyweight Champion, a new WWE Champion, and a new ECW Champion. And the best part about this show, all the matches were great. You take out the one filler match with Santina and Beth Phoenix, if you can even call it a matchup. And like I said before, it served its purpose of being a filler matchup. And it was entertaining at times, too. So it was a waste of time. But it wasn't like I was banging my head against the desk because it was so bad. It was entertaining at times, so I'll give it that much. I'll give it credit where credit is due. But everything else in the show, Christian Swagger was great. The Jericho Steamboat match was very, very good. Definitely go check that out. The Hardy versus Hardy match was awesome. Punk and Kane was very solid, as was the 6-man tag team match, and the main event was awesome as well. So I highly suggest going back and watching this pay-per-view if you haven't already. And even if you did watch it, go back and watch it again, because it was a great pay-per-view. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years, and if only watch it just for the theme song, because they played it a number of times over the course of the night, and it was a great song. It is a great song. I still listen to it to this day, like I said before. But definitely go back and check this out. Very newsworthy. 3 new champions crowned, and those were the only 3 titles defended on the show, because everyone else was being drafted and busy doing other stuff, or was just directionless at the time, so they didn't have much for the other people. But even still, though, for the 3 title matches, they all delivered. Great show. And it's unfortunate this was the final Backlash pay-per-view, because Backlash was a fucking awesome show. It was perfect for right after WrestleMania. And someone suggested this to me in one of my past videos. But they should definitely bring Payback to April right after WrestleMania and put Extreme Rules in June again, where it belongs. Because if they aren't going to do Extreme Rules matches for any of the matches at Extreme Rules, then it's a fucking waste of time. So, and it doesn't make sense with the Extreme Rules name. But I digress. That's another rant for another day. But anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. If you want me to review a pay-per-view that you would like to see, a WWE pay-per-view, WCW, ECW, any of that stuff, I usually have time to watch them on the weekend, especially when I get out of school or my semester ends in about a month. I'll be able to watch a lot more on the network, and I'll be able to review more content. So if you want to suggest something, you can even leave it down in the comment below. You can tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant and just send me a tweet with the pay-per-view you want me to watch and review for this WrestleRant series. Or on Facebook as well at Graham Juice Matthew. So with all that being said, guys, like I said before, appreciate your viewing, appreciate the subscription. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Comment, leave a like, all that great stuff. Always appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys, and this is GSM signing out. Until next week, guys.